Jonathan Macri of the Knicks Film School is on to talk about the return of Karl-Anthony Towns just in time for the Knicks' 5-game West Coast road trip. J-Mac, what's going on, man? Look like you're ready for LA with the tight tee on, man.
I figure if I can't be in LA with the team, I might as well dress as if I was going to be in LA. So yeah, sun's out, guns out. Getting ready to take my stroll down Muscle Beach in spirit, of course.
All right, well, the Knicks got one of their big guns back. Cat's back in the lineup after missing the Warriors game. I got a stat for you. They're 3-4 this season in games without Towns. Is Cat the key to the Knicks being competitive on this road trip?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you watch how they performed against Golden State at the Garden the other night, it's the latest kind of reminder that their offense has become incredibly reliant on Towns. And I think if you contrast it to last season, obviously they had a stretch where they had Julius Randle, who was kind of a secondary shot creator, drew true to the ball. But even after Julius went down, they found a level of offensive, effectiveness that was built really around Isaiah Hartenstein at the center position, kind of acting as a hub. This season, obviously, they don't have Julius, they don't have Hartenstein. And so when you take Cat out of the equation, other than Brunson's self-creation, they don't really have a great way to generate efficient offense on a regular basis. Josh Hart, when he's going right, can act as kind of that screener, kind of almost slip into that Draymond Green role. He is not really himself right now for whatever reason, or at least he hasn't been for a few games. So, yeah, I would say that getting Karl-Anthony Towns back is pretty important, although obviously facing some good offenses on this trip as well. So how that factors in on the defensive end will be worth watching.
On top of, them being so reliant on Cat's offensive game defensively, let's talk about the Knicks defense. They're allowing teams to shoot 37.5% from three. That's worse in the NBA. And we see defensive breakdowns in some of the biggest moments in some of their biggest games. Mitchell Robinson and OG Anunoby both say that communication is an issue, but are there bigger issues within that Knicks defense?
So a couple of things here. For one, that statistic, the highest 3-point percentage against, it's always a statistic that I think people have different reads on, because when Tibbs first came here, the We Here season, it was the opposite, where teams were shooting worse against the Knicks than any other team in the league. That actually continued onto his second season for a while. And people were like, oh, well, the Knicks defense is okay, but it's not really as good as you would think because this is a lot of good shooting luck. This season, you'd have to say, well, maybe it's the opposite. If you look at their statistics in terms of allowing open threes and wide open threes, they're really not that bad. But teams seem to be hitting the vast majority of shots that they take. So I don't know, for me, is that the best indicator of their defense? What is a good indicator of how their defensive issues have continued really since opening night is what you just referenced. And it's one thing to talk about communication issues in October and even November, maybe December. We're in March now. And so when you watch a game against the Warriors, a credit to my colleague Benji Ridholtz, he pointed this out in his grade book on that game. You have the team coming out of a timeout and making an error as far as, oh, who has this guy? And, you have a team coming after a made free throw by Golden State coming down the floor, and nobody picks up a wide open shooter. These are things that cannot happen this late in the season. And, with 21 games left, they have to figure out, why are they continuing to happen? Does there need to be some kind of change as far as a scheme, or, maybe get some more practice time? I don't know what it is, but there's really, time's running out here to fix this stuff.
Yeah, on top of that, the Warriors closed out, 20 of the last 29 points in that game to close that game out. So that's an issue as well. But, let's look ahead now. No point of crying about spilled milk. They're in L.A. tonight. The Lakers are on a 7-game heater. On top of that, 4 out of 5 teams that they play on this road trip have winning records. The Knicks have all hands on deck. What do they need to put on tape to rewrite this narrative that's behind this team, that they can't beat better teams or good teams?
I was about to say that. Look, the record against the Celtics, Cavs, and Thunder, that's not going anywhere because they're not playing any of those teams again until April, and at this rate, everything's probably going to be decided. Look, they have wins against good teams. Like they just beat a Memphis team that's a good team. They have wins against the Nuggets and the Rockets and the Pacers and the Bucks. Like these are good teams. They're not great teams. They're good teams. So I don't know that they necessarily need to prove that they're capable of coming up big against, again, a good team. But I think a couple of things. One, defensively, like we just talked about, can you put together some semblance of a stretch where you are, defending at an appropriate level? And obviously, Mitchell Robinson being back, we still have yet to see our first minute of basketball in which Karl-Anthony Towns is on the floor with Mitchell Robinson. Mitch obviously is questionable for this game tonight. We hope he can give it a go. So that's something I think that we want to see, talk about the tape. There's no tape on it because we haven't seen it. So let's get some tape on that. And then the other thing I'm particularly curious to see tonight, and maybe this is a little bit of an unfair ask, with Towns, we don't know what he may be dealing with. But this Laker team is a team that is tailor made to defend the Knicks in a way that has frustrated them, which is that they don't necessarily have to put a center on the floor, and they have some big bodies that they could stick on Karl-Anthony Towns in lineups where they could switch, pretty much everything. Dorian Finney-Smith, great at that. Obviously, Luka's a big guy. LeBron, needless to say. So how do the Knicks handle a Laker defense that could switch up everything on them? They've been frustrated by it so far this year. I want to see how they handle it tonight.
All right, J-Mac, appreciate you jumping on with us.